Alright guys, you all voted for it. Time for what if Kakarot was in Vegeta's crew. I did say Goku, so I'll get more views, because I think people like Goku better in the title, I don't know. But he will be called Kakarot in this universe. Well, that being said, let's get to it. We cut to after planet Vegeta blew up. After the planet was destroyed, Vegeta would hear the news and be bummed that he wouldn't be king. Raditz would tell everyone about his brother, but say there's no really use of getting him. But then Vegeta would say, "Raditz, go get your brother now." Raditz would look confused and say, "Why?" "Because I want more Saiyans to rule. Actually, you're just a lower class runt anyway. I'll get him. Low class trash or not, he is a Saiyan, and I want more people." In this timeline, Vegeta would be more mad about Planet Vegeta being destroyed. Not that he actually cared about his people. Oh no, he just wanted more people to rule. And even if he could just have one more person, even if it was a lower class runt, he would take it. Vegeta would get in his space pod and begin to go over to Earth. As Kakarot would be taken care of by Grandpa Gohan for a few days, suddenly Vegeta's space pod would land. He would see Kakarot's space pod attacked as he would smirk. Luckily, he wouldn't have to call over a space pod to get him. As Grandpa Gohan looked over, he said, "Oh, who are you?" But then Vegeta just punched him. He punched a hole straight through his chest, as Grandpa Gohan began to cry out and bleed as he fell to the floor, dead. Vegeta would say, "This planet might make a good profit." Kakarot would look at him and begin to cry, as he said, Why would you do that?" As the events of the Broly movie, Kakarot was able to cry, so he's more of a toddler than a baby, so I say he'll be able to speak somewhat. Vegeta would walk up to him and say, "Quiet, you runt, you work for me now," as then he would punch him, knocking him out. As Kakarot laid there unconscious, Vegeta would simply put him in a space pod and launch it over to one of Frieza's planets. Vegeta then started to cause some havoc, as he would go to city, destroying it. Kami would see this, and sensing this boy's power, he knew there was only one way to defeat him, the evil containment wave. Kami would go down with Master Roshi. As they both looked at him, Vegeta would look up and say, "Namekian? Interesting. Why are you on this planet?" Kami would say, "Namekian, is that what I am?" Kami, realizing he was an alien, was a big reveal, but since the planet was about to be destroyed, it's not like he could do much for it. So he then started to fight Vegeta, but this was a distraction, so Master Roshi could form the Mafuba. However, Vegeta saw this coming. He didn't know what Master Roshi was doing, but since I needed Vegeta for this what if, he saw the move coming and simply punched a hole through his chest, killing him. Then he charged the Gallic Gun, as Kami would charge a Ki Blast of his own and blast against the Gallic Gun. Both of them hit against each other, but Kami was no match, as the Gallic Gun went straight to Kami, killing him, making the Dragon Balls inactive. If Vegeta knew about the Dragon Balls, he probably wouldn't have done that, but oh well. As Kami was dead, Vegeta went to city, destroying it. There was nothing they could do. The Red Ribbon Army, other heroes, all came, even a demon with a Devil Might beam, but the beam was too slow to hit Vegeta. Vegeta simply destroyed Earth, turning it into a wasteland. Then he called the Frieza Force, letting them know they could buy it. As he traveled back, we cut to Kakarot. Kakarot would be with Raditz and Nappa, as Nappa and Raditz would look at them and say, "Alright, little runt, Frieza wants to meet you since you're a new Saiyan. It's gonna be a little scary, but make sure to bow and be polite, got it?" Kakarot would nod. As Kakarot would walk up, he would see Frieza on his throne. As he would look down at Kakarot, Kakarot would bow. Frieza would say, "Aw, what a good obedient monkey. I heard that you were rescued." Like a monkey in a zoo. "Aw, don't worry. I'll take good care of you. Just make sure to be loyal. After all, you know what happens to those who are disloyal, don't you?" Kakarot would look up and say, "I don't, but I really don't want to find out. I'm sorry, I said that. Kakarot would say in a scared tone, as Frieza would just laugh. Kakarot being scared was just so funny to Frieza. It was hilarious to watch a Saiyan cower in fear before him. Frieza would say, "It's alright. Then again, you might die on this mission. You are low class and weak, as Vegeta would say. Go rest up. In a week, you'll be sent off. Kakarot would then go back. As Raditz and Nappa would begin to talk to him, Raditz would say, "Alright, don't get in my way." Nappa would laugh and say, "He's low-class trash, just like you. Don't let him talk down to you like that." As he would then start to laugh, Kakarot would look up and say, "Thank you. What's your name?" "My name's Nappa. I'm the second in command. But your first in command is Prince Vegeta, the guy who took you." Kakarot would then remember Vegeta, the man who knocked him out, the man who just took him away like that. It's not like he had a good first impression, but he's so weak there was nothing he can do. Eventually Vegeta would come back, as they would all continue to talk. But Kakarot would remember how his father sent him away. Vegeta said his planet was destroyed by an asteroid, but that didn't sound like it. How would his father know an asteroid was coming and no one else would? Things weren't adding up. But Kakarot didn't have much time to think about it. As he was getting acquainted, eventually a week would pass, and they'll be sent off on their first mission. As they were both sent off to the planet, Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta, and Kakarot, they would all land in the same spot, surrounded by cities. As men with guns would surround them, they would all start to fire. Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa would all start to dodge, as Kakarot would get hit in the arm. Falling down with his arm broke, he would feel rage like he's never felt before. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to make his father's sacrifice worth nothing. So he blasted a key blast, killing one of them. But they were unexperienced, and more of them began to surround them and try to kill them. As Kakarot felt wounded, he began to fight like a caged animal. He fought for his life. He fought with anger. He fought with power. He fought with everything he had to stay alive. So did the rest of the Saiyans. As Nappa would decide to throw up a artificial moon, as they all looked up, they turned into great apes. As they turned into great apes, they would slaughter the entire planet. As they regained consciousness, all the other Saiyans acted like it was normal, but Kakarot began to cry as he realized what he did. But Raditz would slap him and say, "Shut up, you're making us look bad. We're Saiyans and they're inferior. You have to understand, this is life." Vegeta would say, "He's right. As much as I hate to agree with a lower class scum, such as yourself, Raditz is right. We are Saiyans. We wipe out inferior life forms. That's just what we do." "So, are you going to have a problem with that?" Kakarot would look up and wipe away his tears and say no. Vegeta would say good. A few years would pass, and Kakarot would keep remembering things about how Bardock sent him away. How would he know an Astro was coming? If he did, shouldn't he have told people? And shouldn't they have all left? Then, finally, Kakarot figured it out. He didn't know if the other Saiyans would believe him, but he had to tell them. He would invite them over into a room on Frieza's spaceship, as he would take off his scouter and point at his scouter, making them all take it off. Nappa would say, "This better be important." Kakarot would say, "I have a hunch. Bardock sent me away right as the planet was destroyed. If it was a meteor, why didn't he tell people? Why didn't more people escape? If Bardock was able to figure it out just by looking at the sky or whatever, other people shouldn't have been able to figure it out too." They all looked at him and said, "That's a good point, but where are you going with this?" "Frieza did it. He destroyed the planet. He saw our potential and didn't want a bunch of Saiyans to rise against him. So he wiped us all out." After all, don't you think it's a little coincidental that Vegeta was off on a mission when it happened? They all looked at each other, and all of this made sense, but they just stared in silence, not sure what to do. But then Vegeta got up and said, "I'll get stronger." "And so will you. We'll train and get stronger and stronger and stronger. Then we'll defeat Frieza and rule the galaxy and the universe." All of the Saiyans cheered. Even Kakarot. Even though Kakarot and Raditz weren't a big fan of Vegeta, they had to work with him. And Vegeta found a new respect for Kakarot for figuring this thing out and giving him a flame of passion. It's not like he cared about him, at least not yet, but Kakarot was more than just a low-class warrior. At least, that's what he thought deep down. He would never admit it, not even to himself. Years has passed. Kakarot, Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz have been training quite a bit. At first, they didn't really like training. They just fought and used Zenkais, but now they gotta have to. Training is basically them just beating each other up and healing themselves. But as they got stronger, they knew the Frieza force was going to notice. So, they had to make a plan to destroy Frieza once and for all. Raditz suggested that they fake their death. Vegeta suggested that they become Frieza's top lieutenants, but Kakarot didn't like either option. Kakarot wished there was a way they could just hide their power level. Kakarot decided to go out. You see, as Vegeta, Nappa, and Raz were going on a mission, Kakarot was going to go out the galaxy in secret to try to find a technique that can hide his power level. He heard rumors of Captain Ginyu and other races being able to do it, so he thought it was possible. He would go to planet, but this time Kakarot wouldn't be there to destroy it, he'd be there to learn from them. And he wouldn't learn much. Eventually he would land on Yardrat, and they would teach him how to hide his power level. They wouldn't teach him into transmission or anything like that, since he had an evil in his heart. He had to threaten them to even get that out of him. But after that, he left. He went back to the main base. As the Saiyans came back in, they said, "Well, did you learn anything?" Kakarot would share them the secret. Now, this is perfect. They can get stronger and stronger and stronger, and now no one has to know about it. Once they get strong enough, they can then lay a trap. But they needed to be ready, and they needed to get Frieza out in the open. So, after a couple more years passed, and they were all grown up, it was finally time to strike. After training, after beating each other up, after getting Zenkai after Zenkai, they were finally ready to kill Frieza, and they had a plan. A plan to bring Frieza out. Frieza was a cold-hearted bastard who didn't care about much except for power. And what would a power-hungry person want? To live forever, so they can have their power forever. Kakarot would put on his scouter and start to talk about Yardrat. He would make up a lie saying that there's a fountain of youth that makes you live forever on Yardrat. However, he couldn't get to it because the people there were too strong. He needs the Saiyans' help, and they would agree. And as this was going on, Frieza was listening to this. A fountain of youth? Frieza became intrigued, and he needed to go now. He sent him and his elite men to go straight to Yardrat. As the Saiyans landed, they waited as they sprung their trap. They hid their power levels off and waited in the distance. Eventually, Frieza and his spaceship would arrive, and they would cause absolute devastation as they began to torch the planet, destroying city after city, looking for the Fountain of Youth. Eventually, Frieza would get fed up and demand that Zarbon and Dodoria look separately and split up. After all, they're just Yardrats. And if the monkeys are around, they should be able to take care of them. As Zarbon and Dodoria split up, Dodoria would be hit by Vegeta. As he looked up, he would begin to get angry. Vegeta! Trying to betray Frieza and get immortality. It's not gonna work. Vegeta would laugh and say, "We found a way to defeat Frieza, and we lied about this immortality as a trap." And say, "What now?" Dodoria would then be shocked as Vegeta lets his true power unleash. The power level would go up so high it broke the scouter, as Dodoria would shake in fear. "What? How are you this strong?" Vegeta would laugh and say, "Training. A Saiyan can get much stronger through Zenkais. We've been abusing our Zenkais, getting stronger and stronger, waiting to defeat Frieza. Now when he's all alone, that's when we'll strike, and he will die." As then Dodoria would beg for his life, but Vegeta wouldn't listen, as he would just blow him up like he was nothing. Meanwhile, Zarbon would be flying down, as suddenly Kakarot would punch him, sending him down to the floor. Zarbon would get up and say, "Why you?" Kakarot would just laugh and say, "Oh, what's the matter? The big bad Zarbon can't handle a little monkey." Zarbon would say, "Shut up, Saiyan. Why are you here? Are you trying to get immortality? Frieza's onto your little plan. Even if you got it, you'll just live forever, being tortured." Kakarot would laugh and say, "You're a fool, Zarbon, for believing that pathetic story. You and Frieza." As Kakarot just looked at Zarbon smirking, Zarbon got angrier and angrier. Each time he tried to hit him, Kakarot just dodged. and hit him back. He humiliated him, not just with his fists, but with his words. He made Zarbon and Frieza look like an idiot. As Zarbon began to scream, he transformed. I might look ugly in this form, but it does not matter. I'm gonna eat you alive for making me feel this way, for making me look like an idiot, and for tricking Frieza. You are ungrateful. Frieza gave you everything. He gave you a home. He gave you... Kakarot would say, shut up. He blew up our planet. Zarbon would say he had to. There's beings higher than him that demanded him to do so. But it doesn't matter. Your ungrateful wench will die, like the rest of your kind. As he charged at Kakarot, Kakarot simply just punched a hole straight through his chest and blew him out from the inside. Now with Zarbon and Dodoria dead, it's time to wipe out the Frieza soldiers. Then, they could take care of Frieza. Raditz would then sneak into the spaceship. As Frieza was out looking for the Fountain of Youth, he would hide his power levels, sneak in, and destroy them all, destroying all the Frieza soldiers. As Frieza came back, his army was dead. Frieza was pissed, as suddenly he felt the ground shake. As he looked, it was great apes all surrounding Frieza as they began to hit him. As Frieza was punched, he began to bleed like he never bled before. And the first time in Frieza's life, and the first time in a long time, he felt pain. Not emotional pain, not pain from not getting his way, but physical pain. Frieza was livid as he began to scream out in anger, scream out in pain, but the Saiyans just beat on him as his first form wasn't enough. Frieza would then charge up a ki blast and blast the floor, causing the entire ground to shake. As the ground shook, Frieza transformed into his final form. As he looked at them all, giant monkeys, Vegeta tried to quash Frieza, but Frieza just moved too fast and punched Vegeta to the ground. Frieza began to laugh. You may have decimated my army, you may have outsmarted me, but no one will know because you will all be dead. And after this, I'll make sure I wipe every record of your existence out. No one will know about the Saiyan race. After time, the race will be forgotten. A proud race of warriors. We're just the monkeys used for my amusement, who got too rowdy, so they are wiped out twice. Vegeta would say, shut up, as he would blast a ki blast from his mouth. But then, Frieza would charge up Death Slicers as he would throw them at all their tails. The Saiyans tried to dodge, deflect, anything you could think of, really. Run, knock it out of the air, but it was simply too fast as all their tails were cut off and they turned back to their base forms. As Frieza looked at him and said, time to die, Raditz began to shake as this couldn't be possible. They trained for so long. This trap was perfect. How could they fail? Frieza would say, it seems you thought you learned everything about me, how to outsmart me, how to defeat me, but you didn't know that I could transform. Rookie mistake. To repay that mistake with your lives. Frieza would then laugh as he shot Raditz in the legs with the death beam, causing him to fall down to his knees. Kakarot flew in to try to save him, but Frieza simply knocked him with his tail, sending him flying back. As then Frieza murdered Raditz, shooting him in the head with a death beam. Kakarot began to cry. They weren't the closest of brothers, but they fought together. They killed together. Raditz and Kakarot were close. They were brothers. They were low-class warriors who kept up with the elites and had to use their brains to make up for the lack of brawn. Kakarot continued to cry, as suddenly Nappa would charge at Frieza and grab him. As Nappa would then say, I might die, but I'll die hurting you! Ah! Nappa began to yell as he was going to blow himself up, but then Frieza simply punched him in the chest, forcing his fist straight through it, causing him to fall down and die. Vegeta saw Nappa die. Nappa practically raised Vegeta. Nappa was there with Vegeta from the very beginning. As Vegeta and Kakarot began to scream, they both turned Super Saiyan. Frieza started to shake in fear. What are you? We are vengeance. We are the ones that you torture. We are the ones that you made become this. And we are the ones that will kill you. As they both charged up a ki blast and blasted straight towards Frieza. charged up a death ball and threw it in the way, but it did nothing, as it hit Frieza, killing him. The Saiyans did it. They defeated Frieza, but at what cost? Vegeta lost his only friend, and Kakarot lost his brother. They heard rumors about the Dragon Balls on Namek, but were they real? Well, it couldn't hurt to investigate. But overall, they wanted to bring back the ones they cared about. Vegeta wanted to bring back Nappa. In this timeline, he would actually care about him because of all the time they spent together trying to get rid of Frieza. And Kakarot cared about Raditz because Raditz always looked out for him, even if he was mean-spirited. Kakarot and Vegeta would both find a space pod and head off to Namek. There was rumors of wish orbs that can grant any wish. They didn't know if this was possible. They didn't know if these were just rumors, but it was the only thing they could follow up on. As they landed on Namek, Namekians surrounded them. Vegeta wanted to wipe them out and take the orbs, but Kakarot said no. Not because he cared about Namekians, but because doing it civil might be way easier. Besides, there might be a password or something. They don't know. And the Namekians could sense they had an evil heart, but they sensed their intentions, and seeing how strong they are, they decided to let them have the Dragon Balls. But eventually, they'll be sent to Grand Elder Guru, and Nail was ready to fight them. Guru said, "Stand down, Nail." Nail would say, "But they're evil, look at them." Yes, but their intentions are pure. They want to bring back one of their friends. You believe them? I can sense it in their heart, Nail. And even if they are evil, the cruelest thing of all is to deny anyone friendship. Guru would then give Nail the Dragon Ball and say, "Hand it over." Nail would sigh, not agreeing with this, but hand the Dragon Ball over to Goku and Vegeta, as then they would use all of the Dragon Balls gathered to summon Purunga. As Purunga was summoned, Kakarot would use one wish to bring back Raditz, and the other to bring back Nappa. They could go back after them or wish for them to go here, but they can usually just fly over and get them. So instead, Vegeta would have an idea. Immortality would be boring, wouldn't it? A crutch just to not die. Kakarot would say, "Yeah, but what about eternal youth? We could stay young forever. And there'll still be excitement in battle because we could still die." Kakarot would smirk and say, "That's a great idea, Vegeta." As then they would wish for them all to have eternal youth. As then the dragon disappeared, they got onto their space pods and went back to the planet, getting a bigger spaceship. As it landed, Nappa and Raditz would walk in. As then, they would look at Vegeta and say, "What now?" Vegeta would say, "Now, we take over the galaxy once and for all." As that was going on, we cut to King Cold. It's been a few weeks since Frieza died, and Vegeta and his crew have taken over the galaxy. They've taken over what was left of the Frieza Force and rebuilt it into a militaristic empire, a horde based on nothing but conquest. Instead of conquering planets and selling it off, they just conquer and take it, and rely on taxes like a normal government. As King Cold was worried about his son, because if his son died, he could die too. He couldn't find any traces of him. He even went to the planet Yard Rat, but it was nothing but a wasteland. As he went back, he was confused. He didn't know what to do, but then he had an idea. As he would look at Sorbet, "Sorbet, bring me the Ginyu Force." Sorbet would nod. As the Ginyu Force came in, King Cold would say, "I'm sure you've heard about what happened to Frieza." Jace would say, "But if Frieza didn't stand a chance, what chance do we?" King Cold would smirk and say, "I agree, you wouldn't stand any chance in those bodies. However, if you had a new body, you could." Captain Ginyu, "Was that rumor about your power true that Frieza told me?" Captain Ginyu would nod and say, "Yes, it is." King Cold would say, "Excellent. We're gonna have to use that power." Since Captain Ginyu was the only Frieza Force member to be able to hide his power level, they had a plan. King Cold would land on the capital of the Saiyans' planet, which was Frieza's old capital. As the Saiyans came out, King Cold would walk out and say, "Where is he? Where's the Super Saiyan that killed my son?" Vegeta would look at him and say, "I killed your son, now I get to kill you." As he would walk up towards him slowly, King Cold would look down and say, "You think you can defeat me, Vegeta? A brat? No way you can be the legend. The legend must be someone else. A brat like you could never." But then Vegeta would turn Super Saiyan and say, "Shut up! I'm gonna kill you just like I killed your son." But then Kinko would laugh. Oh, Vegeta, sometimes brains beats brawn. I will admit, a legendary Super Saiyan did set my family back a bit. But we will rebuild and take over the galaxy once again, and the universe. Just as a minor setback. Vegeta would look at him and say, "What the hell are you talking about?" But then he heard a noise. As Captain Ginyu was hiding his power level and hiding nearby, he yelled, "Change now!" As suddenly, Captain Ginyu took Vegeta's body. As then he started to do poses. As he posed, the rest of the Saiyans looked confused. As Vegeta and Captain Ginyu's body would look and say, "That's not me!" Kakarot would then be bewildered. It seemed like Vegeta got his body stolen. He was going to have to fight a Super Saiyan and King Cold. As then Kakarot turned Super Saiyan, he walked in. King Cold said, "So there's multiple Super Saiyans. Interesting," he said, a bit nervous. Kakarot says, "Yeah, I'm the only other one, and this Super Saiyan will defeat you both." As then he charged at Captain Ginyu and Vegeta's body. But Captain Ginyu didn't know how to work his body, so he started to get beat up. Kakarot figured this out and exploited his weakness, hitting him at all of his pressure points. However, he couldn't kill him. Well, he could, but then Vegeta wouldn't get his body back. He had to play things nice. As that fight was going on, King Cole would walk up to Vegeta and Ginyu's body and look at him. "I think it's time I get my revenge." As he started to charge up a death beam, Vegeta couldn't do much since he didn't know how to work this body at all. But then Nappa would punch him, sending him flying back, saying, "You don't kill him." Rats would get involved too. As they both started to fight and hold King Cold off, but Kakarot looked down, wanted to get involved. But as he flew down to get involved, Captain Ginyu would fly in front of him, saying, "Where do you think you're going?" Kakarot would say, "You really think you hadn't had enough? I mean, look at you. Look how beat up you are." Captain Ginyu would laugh and say, "I am the mighty Captain Ginyu. You stand no chance against me." Kakarot would look at him and say, "You've lost. No, you lost," Captain Ginyu would say, smirking. As he looked at Kakarot, even though he was bleeding and beat up, he still knew what to do, and he still had a plan to get rid of him. As then King Cole would say, "Destroy Raditz and Nappa so I can get my revenge. Hurry up and kill them." He would look at King Cold and say, "I'm sorry, King Cold, but I don't take orders from you anymore." King Cold would say, "What? The Ginyu Force will now rule the universe." As then, Captain Ginyu blew him up. As Vegeta said in Ginyu's body, "Well, I encourage the man's spirit, although I wish he was on our side." As then, Captain Ginyu continued to laugh as Kakarot continued to pummel him again and again and again and again and again. Captain Ginyu looked at him and said, "You're not going to kill me because you need me to change bodies so you can get Vegeta's body back. Well, guess what? I am the one who's going to be victorious. I am the one who's going to rule this universe. And I am the one who will control everything." As Kakarot said, "Shut up," and switch bodies. "I'll even spare you." Kakarot would laugh and say, "That's a lie. Super Saiyans are ruthless. They're heartless beings of pure power and energy. They wouldn't spare anything. And that's why I won't spare you." Suddenly, he would nod his head as Sorbet would shoot Kakarot straight in the legs, causing him to fall down. As Sorbet has been hiding around, since he had a low power level, no one could spot him. Captain Ginyu would then begin to laugh as Nappa and Rats would look at each other. They knew Captain Ginyu couldn't keep this up forever. That form Super Saiyan drains stamina because they're not used to it. However, could they hold him off long enough? They just didn't know. He was charging a ki blast as he looked straight down at Kakarot. Captain Ginyu laughed and said, "You are a great warrior, but I was better. The great and mighty Captain Ginyu. It's time that I rule this universe." Suddenly, Nappa and Rats would both punch Captain Ginyu, send him flying, but it didn't do any damage. He simply got up and they continued the fight. They tried to draw out the fight as long as possible, but Captain Ginyu began to brutalize them, beat them up, break their bones. Vegeta and Captain Ginyu's body would fly in and punch him, but he wouldn't be able to do much. As Captain Ginyu began to laugh, he was about to kill them all, but just then, he turned back to his base form and fell down. As suddenly, his stamina ran out. He got back up, barely able to walk, breathing heavily. Vegeta would laugh and say, "Your body wasn't used to the transformation." Captain Ginyu would say, "Shut up," as he would try to take someone's body. He would look around for a body to take, but he couldn't find any. He can barely move and he can barely breathe. So he would say, "Change now," and take back his old body. But as he did that, everyone was severely injured and couldn't really do much. So him and Sorbet simply just left. It's been years since Captain Ginyu took Vegeta's body. No one's seen him. They looked for him and scoured the Empire, but no matter where they went, no one could find Ginyu. The Empire continued to run the universe, as they were controlling everything. Eventually, though, one day, as Vegeta and Kakarot would be on their thrones, someone would walk in. It would be Supreme Kai-Shin. As he walked to them, Nappa and Raditz turned Super Saiyan to try to scare him off. But Supreme Kai-Shin wouldn't be deterred, as he looked at them both, saying, "I need your help to defeat Majin Buu, and if you do it, you can defeat Ginyu." As Vegeta would get up and say, "Who are you?" Kakarot would say, "I've been through Frieza's files and mentioned a Supreme Kai before. He helps create planets and guide life in the universe. He is like a god." Vegeta would say, "God or not, no one demands me around." As Supreme Kai-Shin would talk about how dangerous Majin Buu is, Vegeta would be excited for a fight, so he would agree. As the Saiyans went off to Earth, Earth has been totally wiped out, no life there whatsoever. So Babidi wasn't too happy that his egg was there, but there wasn't much he could do. Eventually the Saiyans would arrive, and Babidi would be watching them and be excited to finally get some energy. As the Saiyans landed, Shin would try to have them sneak into Babidi's base, but Babidi already knew where they were at. Even though they were hiding their power levels, he watched them with his magical ball. He would say, "Deborah, get rid of Kibito, but not anyone else. We need them all to be alive to gather as much energy as possible." Deborah would bow and say, "Yes, master." As they all went around and eventually found Babidi's base, suddenly the door would open and Deborah would fly in and kill Kibito, as then he would fly back in. Vegeta was very angry. He didn't even fight him. He just ran away like a coward. Who just hits someone and runs away like that? Vegeta was going to show him what's for, as they all started to go in, but Shin started to say, "No, what are you doing? This is a trap." Kakarot would say, "Trap or not, we can handle it," as they all jumped in. As they were all in the first room ready to fight, suddenly someone walked through the door. It was Pui Pui, as Pui Pui began to laugh. "Hello, Saiyans. I've heard about you from my master, the one who killed Frieza. You seem very strong. I can't wait to break you." As then he would charge straight at Vegeta, punching him, but it did nothing, as Vegeta just yawned. And their fight would continue similarly as in canon, but this time Vegeta would be even more brutal, hitting him in his pressure points, torturing him, and enjoying his pain and misery. Because this is what happens to those who challenge Vegeta. This is what happens to those who challenge their empire. They will be crushed. Babidi would get desperate and change the floor to his home planet. As then, Pui Pui would look at Vegeta. "This is 10 times gravity." Vegeta would laugh and say, "10 times? It was 1,000 times. Maybe you would stand a chance." Pui Pui would look and say, "Are you mocking me?" As he would try to punch Vegeta, Vegeta would simply grab his hand and snap it. As it broke, Pui Pui fell to the floor. Vegeta would say, "You're pathetic, you know that? A waste of space." As then, Vegeta would simply blow him up. The next match was against Yakon. As Kakarot fought him, Babidi began to get more and more nervous. They were wiping out his minions one by one. He wasn't going to be able to win. He needed a way to win. So he started to search for evil in anyone's hearts. But Babidi couldn't find any since they were all pure heart. Just kidding. They were all pretty bad, to say the least. Babidi was excited, but he couldn't turn everyone because then, well, he wouldn't get any energy. So he decided to turn to Raditz. Raditz was the most hateful. Even though they were all evil, Raditz was jealous. Kakarot became Super Saiyan before him. And even though he's a low-class warrior, he's got Vegeta's respect. And Raditz never had anyone's respect. Not Nappa, not Vegeta, only Kakarot's. But that can only get him so far. As Raditz fell to the floor and began to grab his head, he let him take control so he can get stronger. as suddenly he would feel a massive power boost. As Yakon died, Raditz looked at them both and turned Super Saiyan 2. Who will fight me? Kakarot would say, I will get this. Vegeta would say, I need to put him in his place. No, I'll fight him. He's my brother. You guys carry on. They would nod as Kakarot would go out and fight Raditz. As they fought, Kakarot would look at him. Is this what you want? Being a puppet to someone stronger? Raditz would say, I'm no puppet. Besides, that's how Vegeta treats me. That's how I've always been treated. Once Babidi sees what I've done, I will kill him. I just need to defeat you so I can kill Vegeta. And Kakarot turned Super Saiyan 2 also as they both began to battle each other. Raditz would look at him and say, why are you defending him? Raditz would shoot a double Sunday as Kakarot would shoot a Kamehameha and he would hit back, hitting Raditz straight in the face. Kakarot would say, what are you talking about? Ever since you both turned Super Saiyan, you've been closer than anyone else. And you're a low-class runt. He hates low-class warriors. It makes no sense why you two are like this. It makes no sense why you two are so damn close. Kakarot would look at him and say, why does it not make sense? He respects that I'm strong. Vegeta's grown as a person. We all have. Even if we're Saiyans, even if we wipe out other people, we've still grown. Raditz would say, bullshit. Vegeta has always been the same. And he never treats me with anything differently. You're hiding something, Raditz would say as he would charge in. As they began the battle, they kept on talking. Raditz would keep pushing Kakarot, demanding that he tells him the truth, demanding that he's hiding something. But Kakarot would say he doesn't know what he's talking about. As that was going on, we cut to Vegeta. Vegeta was fighting Dabura. Dabura would be giving him a hard time, using many magic and different abilities. However, he would still be much stronger and be wiping the floor with Dabura. Dabura would feel panicked, as no matter what he did, Vegeta was simply on top of it. Vegeta was simply too strong. As he was about to kill Dabura, suddenly, the ground began to shake. As Vegeta versus Dabura and Raditz versus Kakarot was just enough to awaken enough energy to suddenly bring back Majin Buu. As Majin Buu was brought back, Dabura would get up and say, change now! As it was actually Captain Ginyu, and he would take Majin Buu's body. As Ginyu would begin to laugh, and this would actually make him stronger. Since Ginyu was a skilled martial artist and Buu was actually a little kid, it would actually make him more powerful, similar to what happened with Togama in the Frieza arc. As Captain Ginyu laughed, Vegeta would look up, horrified, as Kakarot and Raditz would both fly in, injured, heavily breathing. Supreme Kai Shin was scared, as they all would charge in and begin to fight Majin Buu. But nothing worked. Ginyu Buu was simply too strong. Every time he blew him up, he just regenerated. And he was learning new techniques and new abilities. Even with all of them being Super Saiyan 2s, Majin Buu was simply too powerful. As they were all pushed further and further and further back, they all began to panic. However, Supreme Kai Shin would show up and Kai them to the Supreme Kai world. As they all lay down, Supreme Kai Shin would begin to heal them, as they needed to come up with a battle plan. But then Majin Buu would appear, as they were all shocked, as Captain Ginyu laughed. I can learn any technique just by seeing it once in this body. This is why it's so easy to learn. This is why it's so easy to become stronger in it. This is the best body I've ever had, and I will rule the universe in it. As then Captain Ginyu did a pose. Kakarot got up and said, Vegeta, we have to. Vegeta would sigh, not wanting to do this, but he would give up his pride to protect his friends. As they would both start to do the fusion dance, Kakarot and Vegeta would fuse. This is the birth of Gogeta. I mean, it should be Kakarot and Vegeta's name combined, but that doesn't sound catchy, so I'm going with Gogeta. Gogeta and Majin Buu / Captain Ginyu began to battle each other, but Gogeta was far stronger and he knew about Captain Ginyu's tricks, so he wouldn't let his body be stolen. He also knew Majin Buu had a great stamina, regeneration, and this form wouldn't last forever, so they would use their newfound powers to reach a new form, Super Saiyan 3, as Captain Ginyu fell to his knees. How is this power possible? He looked at him and said, this is the power of working together. This is the power of being together. We might be evil, we might kill, we might slaughter, but teamwork is what makes us strong. Teamwork is what makes the Saiyan race powerful, and teamwork is how we killed Frieza, and it's how we're gonna kill you. As then, they blew up Captain Ginyu, killing him. As Captain Ginyu died, eventually Goku and Vegeta would unfuse. As they would both look at each other, Vegeta would say, "I'm never gonna fuse with you again." Kakarot would laugh and say, "Fair," as they did it. We cut to Beerus. Beerus would be asleep as he would dream about a Super Saiyan God, a warrior who can challenge him, a warrior who could push him to be something more, to be something stronger. As he kept on dreaming about this rival, suddenly he would wake up. He would ask Whis what happened to the Saiyans, as he would tell them that Vegeta survived and staged a rebellion, killing Frieza, and he became the legendary Super Saiyan with Kakarot. Beerus would spit out his food. He couldn't believe this. Kakarot and Vegeta, Super Saiyans? He never thought Vegeta had it in him. However, he was somewhat proud. Maybe he wasn't that spoiled brat he was anymore. Well, only one way to find out. He was going to have to pay him a visit. As all that was going on, we cut to Kakarot and Vegeta. Kakarot and Vegeta were training, as Raditz and Nappa trained too, pushing themselves further and further. As Vegeta looked at Kakarot and smirk. I can't believe I fused with low-class trash all those years ago. Kakarot would smirk and say, "Don't lie, that was the best thing you've ever done." Vegeta would laugh. Vegeta's grown quite a bit. And he's learned to accept the low-class Saiyans. Even if he doesn't like them as much, he learned to accept them. And he's learned to respect Kakarot as a warrior, just like in our timeline. But, he's still pretty evil in this timeline. They all are. They are true Saiyan warriors who care about nothing but power, death, and destruction. And that's okay. They have truly became what the Saiyans dreamed of, what the Saiyans wanted. They have killed Frieza and built an empire that no Saiyan could ever have dreamed. However, all that was at risk because someone was coming. Lord Beerus, the god of destruction, was coming. And eventually he would land on their capital planet. As he walked up, the rest of the Saiyans got hostile, but Vegeta began to shake. He said, "No, it can't be." Memories started to flood back from when Vegeta was a kid. He remembers Beerus visiting King Vegeta. He remembered how he used him. Vegeta began to get angry, and he thought maybe he could fight this time, but it's Beerus, a god of destruction. He decided to play it cool. As he walked up to him and says, "What is it?" Beerus would look down and say, "Oh, Prince Vegeta, I remember you. You were such a little spoiled brat back then, but now, let's hope you have better manners. I'm here for a Super Saiyan God." They all looked confused. They had no idea what a Super Saiyan God was. But Vegeta began to step up as he turned Super Saiyan 3. We may not know what a god is, but we do know about this power, the power of a Super Saiyan 3. Vegeta said, smirking, as Beerus said, "Interesting. Well, come fight me with it." And Vegeta would fight Beerus, but Beerus was simply too strong. Every punch, every ki blast, everything he did against him would not work. As suddenly Vegeta tried to charge a massive gallic gun straight to his face. As he put all of his power, all of his energy into it, Beerus just looked at him and said, "If that's all you got, then I'm disappointed." As then he just finger flicked Vegeta, causing him to fall down knocked out. Everyone was shocked. He just defeated Vegeta just like that. I mean, sure, he was a god, but Vegeta was one of the strongest ones. Kakarot began to shake, realizing he wouldn't do much better either. As then Beerus looked at him all and says, "Now it's time for something serious. It's time for good food." As then they started to feed Beerus. As Beerus ate, he started to enjoy the food. And he started to talk to the Saiyans and get to know them better. And get to know whether he should destroy them or not. And Kakarot was on edge. He needed to figure out what the Super Saiyan God was, but he had nothing. He knew nothing of this god. Kakarot would then begin to panic. If he couldn't figure anything out, Beerus would destroy them. He would destroy all of them. And all those years of training, all those years of fighting, all those years of conquest, they would basically be for nothing. However, suddenly Kakarot got an idea. As the rest of the Saiyans would watch over Beerus to make sure he didn't get mad, he would go over to Nappa. Kakarot would say, "I have a mission for you, Nappa." Nappa would look at him and say, "What is it?" "I want you to go to Namek and get the Dragon Balls, and wish to know anything about the Super Saiyan God." Nappa would nod, as Nappa would get a space pod and begin to fly towards Namek. As he landed, the Namekians got out and began to shake, worried that Nappa would kill them, but Nappa said, "Calm down, I just need your Dragon Balls for information." They said, "How can we trust you?" Nappa would say, "Because if I wanted you dead, you would already be dead." Nappa looked at him blankly for a while, and they sighed and gave up one of the Dragon Balls. They got orders from the new Elder, if the Saiyans ever showed up, just give them what they want so they don't kill everyone. Besides, they didn't want immortality or something like that, and if they wanted to rule the universe, they would work for it. Saiyans like battle and they like to work. They like to get stronger. They just use Dragon Balls for information and other things. Eventually, Nappa would gather them all. As he summoned Purunga, he would ask Purunga about the Super Saiyan God, and he would end up telling him all about it. Then he would begin to make his wishes. For his first wish, he would wish to know if there was any other Saiyans out there, and he would tell him about Broly and Paragus and Vegeta's brother. And he had it in mind where to get them. After all, this is a Saiyan Empire. He should bring as many Saiyans in as possible. Once he got that through, Nappa then decided to wish to bring all of the Saiyans and Beerus and Whis here, so they can just do the ritual here. And all the Saiyans agreed, and Beerus was a little reluctant to agree, but even if it was a trap, he was too powerful for it to really affect him, so he agreed. As he appeared on Namek, he looked around and said, "Ah, Namek, the peaceful Namekian race. I haven't been here too often, since they're not known for their food. Why have you brought me here?" "Because I've learned how to make a Super Saiyan God, and I learned about the ritual. Also, I wanted to give the third wish to you, Lord." You would say, "Ah, how kindly." As he walked up, Purunga looked down at Beerus and began to shake, scared. Lord Beerus, what do you need?" Beerus would look and say, "Let me think. This is so hard. But I just wish for the tastiest food in the world." "No, scratch that. The universe." Purunga would say, you got it." As he made a delicious, weird-looking ball thing appear. As Beerus ate it, it was purely delicious. He's never tasted something so good in his entire life. As he finished eating his food, the Saiyans would do the Super Saiyan God ritual and decide to give Goku the God powers. Since Vegeta fought him the first time, so Goku should fight him the second time. It's only fair. Beerus would then smirk as he looked at Goku as he walked straight up to his face. Well. Finally, I get to fight a Super Saiyan God. I'm so intrigued, Kakarot. I hope you live up to this expectation." Kakarot looked at him and said, "I am a true-blooded Saiyan warrior. I will live up to your expectations. Low class or not, I am a Saiyan." Beerus and Kakarot both began to battle each other, but Kakarot didn't really know how to use his powers, so Beerus was helping him. He taught him how to use his powers, slowly easing him into it so he could fight him better. Beerus has been bored for so long. Anime and food can only get you so far in life. He wanted a battle, a challenge, something that can make him feel entertained for once. Something that can actually make him feel something. And even though he had to hold back a lot, to say the least, he was having a good time battling Goku. Kakarot was a true Saiyan warrior, and he had great battle instincts. He also was getting more and more used to the Super Saiyan God power, and as they fought, their battle led them up into space. Beerus would laugh and say, "You know, Kakarot, this is quite thrilling. This battle between us? How about we make things more interesting?" Kakarot would look at him and say, "What do you mean?" Beerus looked down and say, "I know you don't care about those Namekians, but those Saiyans you fight with, you seem rather close to them." You then began to summon a massive energy ball. "Let's see how much you really care about them." As he threw it right towards planet Namek, Kakarot looked as he began to shake, surprised. He couldn't let his family die. He couldn't let Vegeta and the rest of his squad die. As the energy ball went closer and closer to Namek, Kakarot flew to it and managed to absorb all of its energy as he flew and punched Beerus straight in the face. The battle would continue, but eventually, Kakarot wouldn't be able to win. As Beerus would win, Kakarot would fall down to Namek. As the rest of the Saiyans awaited their fate, Beerus looked at them all and said, "I had fun. Come to my planet any time to train. A stronger Saiyan will make a more worthy opponent." As then he flew off. As Beerus left, Nappa looked at him and say, "We have new Saiyans for our crew." Vegeta would say, "Really? I made a wish with the Dragon Balls. They seem promising." As the Saiyans were training on Beerus' world, Nappa and Kakarot would be off, going towards Broly's planet. Nappa used the Dragon Balls to wish to see if there was any other Saiyans around, and it told him about planet Vampa and Broly, and also told him about Vegeta's brother, but he was weak and pathetic, so not really no use of getting him. So the Saiyans went over to Vampa, and as they landed, they would see an old man, and a man who was buff and strong. They assumed the buff and strong one was Broly. Paragus would tell him what happened, except for the fact that King Vegeta betrayed them. He left out some things. He made it seem like they were going off on a mission and their spaceship broke down in the area, instead of Vegeta betraying them, since they were Saiyans. And they would tell him everything what happened, about how Frieza betrayed them and how they killed him. Paragus was shocked and even angered that Vegeta was still alive. True, it was King Vegeta who did this to him, but the prince, that arrogant bastard, the king's son, did all of this. He will pay for his father's sins. Paragus will get his revenge, but he must act accordingly and pretend to be their friend. As Paragus thanked them, Paragus and Broly went on their spaceship and went to the capital of Vegeta's empire. As they went straight to the capital, Paragus would look at Vegeta. Angered, he would hide it all. "Hello, Vegeta. I offer my son. I am old and frail, but I am a brilliant scientist. I can bring you great technology and discovery, and my son is a great warrior." Vegeta would say, "Interesting. Vegeta would stand up and walk towards them both, and he would say, "Very well. I want to see how strong Broly is firsthand." He would look up at him and say, There's a problem, sir." Vegeta would say, "What is it?" "He has a tendency to lose control. That's why I have this shock collar. Once he gets so strong, his mind goes blank, and he becomes pure rage and anger." Vegeta's never heard about this problem from another Saiyan. He found it intriguing, and he would ask why, and he would tell him about the Ikare form. It seems like he harnesses the power of a great ape. That seems fascinating. Vegeta was excited to fight this Broly. As he looked at Broly and said, "Alright, get ready to fight," he would say, "Are you sure, Vegeta, sir?" And he would say, "Yes, I'm sure. Now, let's get this started." Paragus would tell Broly to go after him, and as they fought, Vegeta would go Super Saiyan right off the bat, shocking Paragus. As Vegeta was way ahead of Broly, but as they fought, he got stronger and stronger and stronger, till he turned Super Saiyan 2, and Broly's power level grew with it. Vegeta saw Broly as someone with massive potential, whose power grew during the battles. He could easily use this for his advantage, as then he would say, "Alright, shock him." As Broly was shocked and passed out, Vegeta would say, "We'll definitely use him on a few missions." "Now, Paragus, let me show you our lab." Paragus would be excited, the first time hopeful in so long. Paragus would learn about Vegeta's capital, and he would learn the layout. He would walk around it every day, learning the quickest ways to get around without just straight up flying. Why did Paragus do this? Well, Vegeta had a no-flying rule in the capital, and he needed to go around fast. And he wanted to look professional, but still have quick ways to get around. He also learned ways to secretly walk around. As Paragus learned how to hide his power level and other techniques, Paragus didn't get stronger physically, but he got stronger mentally, as he began to hatch up a plan. Broly would go on a few missions with strict supervision, and they would always have the shock collar on him. Broly would always finish the mission easily. Broly was becoming quite famous around Vegeta's empire. Vegeta was growing a liking to him, just as Paragus planned. As the days passed, and Vegeta grew more and more towards Paragus, Paragus waited a few months to make sure everyone thought he was loyal. Now it was finally time to strike. It was finally time for Paragus to put his plan in action. As one night, Vegeta would be asleep, as he would wake up to the sound of blaster fire, as he would feel a sharp pain through his chest. Then, his legs and arms would be shot. Paragus would laugh. "This is what you get. Your father abandoned me, left me to die because Broly was too powerful. I could just shoot you in the head, but I want you to feel the pain. I want you to crawl on your knees, bleeding out, and slowly dies." As then, Paragus would simply walk off. Vegeta would flop to the floor and try to flop to a healing chamber, but the nearest one was a couple rooms away. He didn't know if he could make it. Meanwhile, suddenly he put explosives in his room and blew it up, as he just left some of his clothes behind to luckily be intact. Broly, Kakarot, and Raditz would all run there, as suddenly Broly would see the clothes and assume his father was dead. As he began to scream in anger, scream in pain, suddenly his hair turned green as he punched Kakarot, sending him flying. As Kakarot then fell to the floor and began to cough up blood, Broly was flying straight towards him, ready to kill him, but then Raditz would hit him with a double sundae. As Broly would turn around, Kakarot, Raditz, and Nappa would all turn Super Saiyan Blue, and at first they were a bit stronger than Broly, but he got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. No matter how hard they fought, it seemed that Broly would always be stronger. The only thing they can do now was fuse. As Kakarot looked over at Raditz and said, "Are you ready? Are you sure, brother? This is the only way." They would nod. Meanwhile, we cut to Vegeta. Vegeta was bleeding out, as he would barely be able to crawl. He would use his head to crawl. He should have died that day. He should have bled to death, but Vegeta had something. He had determination. He had pride. He remembered being under Frieza. He remembered being forced to do things he didn't like. He remembered not having a choice, not having a say in what he did. But finally he had a say. Finally he had power. And he was not going to let all that go away. As he crawled to the healing tank, Vegeta said, "Heal now." As the healing tank would use the voice activation to open itself up, as Vegeta was barely able to crawl in. Eventually, Vegeta would start to heal, and as that was going on, Kakarot, Raditz, and Nappa began to get beat to the end of their lives. Blood began to drip from their body. Their bones began to snap, until finally, Kakarot and Raditz, learning the fusion dance from Yardrath and other planets, would perform the fusion dance, as Kakaraz was born. As Goraz looked at him and began to laugh, "You think you can defeat me? I am the perfect warrior," as he turned blue, as then Broly would charge at him. And Goraz would actually frown, because even though they were cold beings, Saiyans did actually care about each other, and Broly was like a brother to them. He went on missions after missions. For months, they fought together, and they bonded. And they knew this wasn't Broly's fault. Watching his dad die in some sort of weird attack did this to him. Goraz would then charge a Kamehameha double sundae, as then he launched it straight at Broly. Broly would shoot a mouth blast straight at it. As the beams hit, it was an epic beam struggle. Both of them went at it with everything they had, pushing each other further and further and further and further. As they both began to scream, "Ah!" Broly's anger pushed him forward. Broly's anger made him strong, but it wasn't enough to defeat Goraz, as suddenly it would destroy Broly, wiping him out. As they unfused, eventually Vegeta would heal, and he would go to Kakarot and tell him everything that happened, and how he had to crawl his ass into the healing chamber. Meanwhile, we cut to Paragus flying away in a space pod. He would assume he got his revenge, but as he landed on a planet, as he got out, he saw Granola. Granola would look at him and say, "Using your own son for your revenge. Such petty and shameful. You're the reason your Saiyan race must be wiped out." Paragus would say, "Who are you and what do you know?" But then he would see Moro walk beside him. "Oh, we know enough. You are old and weak. You have barely any energy, but a feast is a feast. Do you mind?" Paragus would look at him, beginning to fall down. As Granola would look at Moro and say, "Huh, fine. Just leave the other Saiyans to me. As then Moro would begin to devour Paragus. Paragus would yell, he would scream in pain as all of the energy went into Moro's fingertips. As Paragus was dead, Moro and Granola, an unlikely team-up, were gonna try to wipe out the Saiyans. Moro wanted food, he wanted to get stronger, and Granola just wanted revenge. We go back a bit to when the Heaters broke out Moro. They were hired by an interesting crew. You see, a crew from prison managed to break out and gather some money, and they hired the Heaters to break them out. So Granola was there too, and as they broke into the prison and broke Moro out, Moro would then suddenly eat the energy of the Heaters, killing them, except for Granola. As he looked at him, I see that face. That's a face of revenge. Tell me, who do you want to get revenge on? Granola would say, the Saiyans, the people that rule the universe. I have gotten information a bit in my cell, here and there. How about you join me and together we will destroy the Saiyans? Granola would reluctantly agree. So they decided to get revenge. However, Moro knew about how strong the Empire was, and he wanted to stay far away from it. So he decided to go for some planets far off from the Empire's reaches. Dirt planets, backwater planets, planets with uncivilized people that not even the Empire would want. As he would go there and he began to absorb their energy and get stronger and stronger and stronger. As the days passed, Moro would slowly grow into a young adult, as he was planning out to get his revenge. Eventually, though, Supreme Kai-Shin would appear, as he would look at Vegeta and warn him about Moro, saying he's back and he wants revenge. Vegeta looked down and say, why do I care about this Moro? I am Vegeta, the Prince of all Saiyans. I can take care of him. Shin would shake and say, please don't act like this. He would laugh, I'm just joking. Besides, I think I have a plan. Vegeta would look at the rest of the Saiyans as they would nod. Stay here and watch after the planet in case he attacks. I'll go to Beerus's planet. Vegeta would travel to Beerus's planet. As Beerus sat there, he then saw Vegeta land. As he walked up to him, I can tell you used something different for a god of destruction powers. Teach me how to use it. Beerus would look and say, why? So I can protect this universe better. I understand if you don't trust me. I understand if you're threatened, but then Beerus would laugh. Threatened? I'm not threatened by you, Prince Vegeta. You are quite entertaining. I will teach you. Beerus then began to try to teach Vegeta Ultra Ego. Meanwhile, Moro finally got enough energy. He thought it was time to attack the capital with Granola. Granola was just cannon farther, though, a sniper used to distract them, and he knew it. So, as soon as the attack began, Granola ditched him and went off for his own journey to get the Dragon Balls, the wish to become the strongest in the universe. Meanwhile, Moro would show up at the capital planet. As he landed, Kakarot, Nappa, and Raditz all surrounded him, as then he began to absorb their energy. He used prisoners as cannon fodder to keep them out of the way, as he just kept absorbing their energy more and more, feeding off their life force. Kakarot felt himself become weaker and weaker and weaker. As he transformed to the blue form and even got into blue evolution, it did nothing, as Moro simply punched him, kicking him further back. As eventually their forms died out and they fell to the floor, the energy being stolen, it seemed like they were going to die. But then Supreme Kai Kai-Kai'd and then managed to Kai-Kai them out, saving them. This pissed Moro off. He knew where the Supreme World of the Kais were and he would go there soon, but for now, he must continue to feed, as he began to continue to eat everyone on the planet. As then Supreme Kai-Shin healed them all, he would then say, it seems like we have no other choice but fusion. Kakarot said, even then, I don't know if it will be enough, because it will just absorb our energy. We need to act fast then. Goku then remembered a technique. He remembered how we told him to move without thinking. Kakarot knew this was the only way to win. As he began to train and try to clear his mind, he knew this Ultra Instinct or whatever would be the only thing that could save them. As Kakarot continued to train and try to clear his mind, eventually Moro would show up as he would start to drain the planet. Raditz and Nappa would charge first. As Moro began to steal their energy, Kakarot would simply sit back and close his eyes. As he walked towards him, suddenly his hair turned pure white. As he went into Ultra Instinct, Kakarot began to dodge all Moro's attacks, and he began to hit him at all of his pressure points. Kakarot knew he had to finish him off right here, right now. As Raditz and Nappa started charging their attacks, Kakarot kept him busy, kept distracting him. As Moro kept getting more and more bloody, he tried to keep the distance away, but he couldn't. Moro would scream, "How is this possible? How am I losing?" Kakarot would say, "It's over, Moro." Moro would say, "It's not over." He would go into the ground and try to absorb the planet, but it would be too much and it would kill Moro. As Moro was defeated and Kakarot unlocked a new form, they all thought they won, but suddenly, Raditz would be shot straight in the chest by a ki beam. So would Nappa, as they would fall down, bleeding out. Kakarot would look down in horror, as suddenly Granola would walk up to him. As Nappa and Raditz fell to the floor, bleeding out, Supreme Kai Shin went to heal them. But then Granola looked at him and said, "I don't think so, Supreme Kai. Moro told me about you and his little battle with you, but I don't really care. All I care about is my revenge. So don't do it. As long as you don't heal them, there'll be no reason for me to get involved." The Supreme Kai nodded and began to shake as Kakarot and Granola fought each other. Kakarot was able to dodge a lot of attacks because of his Ultra Instinct, but there were some that were too fast. Kakarot had to choose what to dodge and what not to dodge, and try to protect his vital organs. As the battle kept going onwards and onwards and onwards, Kakarot was able to keep up for a little while, but he was starting to get outclassed, barely holding in there, and Granola laughed. "Where's your friend, Vegeta? I want you two to die together. I want all the Saiyans to die together. I want to end your race once and for all, to end your reign of terror, and to end the misery you've caused to all these planets and to my people." As this was going on, we cut back to Vegeta. As Beerus would look at him and say, "Do you know how you get this power? How you get the power of Ultra Ego?" Vegeta would say, "No. Pure anger. It's a form of destruction and power. To get that, you need to get angry. So let me help you a bit. I'm the one who ordered Frieza to wipe out your race." Suddenly, Vegeta would turn Blue Evolution as he would charge at Beerus, but Beerus would just knock him down to the floor and say, "You're nothing but a weakling. You need to harness your rage, harness your power, or Kakarot will die, the one you care about." Vegeta would get up and say, "The one I care about? What are you talking about?" Beerus would laugh. "He was the first low-class Saiyan you ever gave a damn about. And you turned Super Saiyan, not because of Nappa's death, but because Kakarot's life was threatened. I know how you feel about him. If you don't do this, your beloved Kakarot will die." Vegeta looked down as he began to nod. As he trained more and more, eventually he would learn Ultra Ego. As we cut back to Kakarot, he'd be standing, barely alive, but then Vegeta would punch Granola, sending him flying. As he would get up, "You okay, Kakarot?" Kakarot would say, "Yeah," as him and Granola began to battle. As they both started to battle, Vegeta would look at Kakarot and say, "If we die, I love you, Kakarot. You're like a brother to me. So was Nappa, but you were there. You taught me that low-class Saiyans can matter, and you showed me the strength of training, the strength of improving yourself, and the strength of learning new things, instead of just relying on Zenkai boost. And I've seen you grow up, and I'm proud of that. And I'm happy to die with you, if we perish." Kakarot would laugh and say, "Same here, Vegeta." As they fought Granola, Granola would get angry, as they were supposed to be scared. They were supposed to be shaking in their boots. They were supposed to hate life. He was supposed to torture them and kill them, just like he did his people. But they didn't act like that. They were excited, and they even accepted death that they lost. Kakarot and Vegeta would keep on fighting. As Vegeta took more and more damage, eventually he would thrice straight at Granola, punching him in the face, knocking him to the ground, knocking him out. As then Goku would blow him up. Vegeta and Goku did it. They worked so hard, and they managed to just barely beat Granola. As they fell down to the floor, Supreme Kai Shin healed them all, and he said, "Well done. This calls for a celebration." Even though Supreme Kai Shin didn't really like him, he knew that it was a necessary evil. They played the role a destroyer should play, because Beerus didn't really do his job. Kakarot and Vegeta lived happily, like brothers. So did Nappa and Raditz. The Saiyan crew ruled the universe.